welcome. It is the Tile Happy Hour. We hope you're having a great week. And today we are going to talk tile and stone as we do every week at the happy hour. We love it. We love the industry. We love what's going on. And when I say we, I mean my good buddy, my good friend, a brother from another mother, my Yankee. Can I call you a Yankee? John Tedesco.
Sure. You call me a Yankee as long as you're referring to like the old, reference to it. If you're talking about a Yankee fan, then I have a problem.
Right? Yeah. No, I don't even know. I mean, I played baseball, but I know nothing about baseball. But I think if I remember, you're a Mets fan, correct?
Yeah, New York Mets. That's right. Suffering Mets fan, but love it.
Did I ever tell you I saw Darryl Strawberry?
Really?
I was in the arena when he broke the scoreboard.
Really?
Arena or ballpark? I guess ballpark.
Actually, I saw him. He's very into his religion now. He's very
really?
Very grounded, actually.
Because I believe right after he hit that home run, he went crazy on crack for a little while.
Well, yeah. So a friend of mine invited me to a church in Brooklyn, and the Tabernacle, and it was big church, and he was speaking there, and I met him, and he talked like I was almost dead. Like he was really like I was almost killed myself. Things were really bad, and drugs and everything. And he turned himself around, and he's actually like a preacher now, almost.
That's great.
Great. Him and his wife. Excuse me.
Well, as they said when I was in high school and college, crack is whack. So
crack is whack.
Don't do crack, kids. That's your PSA from the Tile Happy Hour today. We're not here to talk about crack. If you're watching on YouTube or Podcast Network, Instagram, there's clips, there's LinkedIn. What else? X?
Yeah, everything. So crack is whack, and tile makes you smile.
Oh, I like that. Good job. But if you're watching live, welcome. Let us know where you're watching from. Throw it in the comments. If you're watching on a replay, which most of you do, that's okay too. We still want to read your comments. I woke up this morning early and had some comments today. A listener was asking questions, which is kind of ties into today's topic about what happens if your sealer gets in your grout joint before you grout it.
Well, what's interesting is people buy tile and stone because it's practical.
Yeah.
And it is practical, and we can attest to that every day of the week, right? But there are some things that you need to take in consideration. I feel that even with tile or stone, there is some amount of precaution sometimes, some amount of just preparation and expectations to be thought about. And that's what we're here to talk about today, is about the tile maintenance and preventive measures and things like that. So when people think of sealing, Craig, they usually think of natural stone. But let's just get one thing out of the way. Sure. Is there a time where you need to seal or protect or do something to tile? When I say tile, ceramic, porcelain, even glass. Is there a time where you need to think about that, or is it just stone?
Sure. Yeah, and this is off topic, but that's okay because this is live and this is how we roll. But yeah, sealer is, I always kind of say it's like cheap insurance. Now, there's some things that don't need to be sealed. When you got a porcelain tile and an epoxy grout, both of those things are impervious. So impervious means nothing's really going to absorb into them. Can a sealer hurt them? Not really. Is it going to help a lot? Not really. Can it maybe help in maintenance and cleaning? A little bit. But then you have your other grouts that are maybe cement based, and then your other tiles that are not porcelain, that are that do absorb some water. And what happens is when you absorb that water, it takes stains into the tile also. And this is where a sealer can come in handy with a ceramic tile, a matte tile, a terracotta tile, terrazzo tile, especially cement terrazzo. Those are times sealers really help you protect your floor, keep it looking new as long as possible, and help your maintenance program.
Right. Yeah. Well, so back when sealers were kind of invented, they were more topical, right? They were kind of like silicone on surface. Now it's evolved into impregnating sealers. And hey, kids, word of the day is impervious. Do you know how to spell impervious? So yeah, I learned something today, Craig. That's pretty cool.
That's cool. Well, today we were going to talk about our focus today is on stone. Being a part of the tile industry means you're a part of the stone industry because, let's be frank, stone tiles were the first tiles, and people have been walking on stone tiles for millennia, maybe.
A long time.
A long time. And so when you order or are interested in designing a space that has stone in it, there are some things you want to think about. So that's what we're focusing on today. John, what do you think the most common Googled question about stone installations are?
Oh, about do I need to seal my stone floor?
That is number 4.
Oh, really?
Yeah. But that. Can
I get another shot?
Yeah. Get another shot. You got now. Think about it. This is the context of Google. This is somebody that is trying to solve a problem.
They're Googling. I really want to meet John Tedisco. Can I get his phone number?
That was not part of the prompt, so that did not come up. But that probably is high on the Google Trends list.
Number 11, maybe.
Yeah. The number 1 question asked to Google is, how do I clean my stone?
Okay.
Which is a good one, but maybe we shouldn't start there, but we'll get to it. But John, as a designer and having a showroom, I think the first thing you should think about is stone right for what I'm designing?
Yeah. So when I'm with a client, be it an architect or a designer for a commercial project or a residential homeowner, more so for the homeowner, because you have to anticipate that a professional kind of knows what they're getting into when they're asking for something. So for an architect or designer is asking for a stone, I'm not thinking, are you sure you want stone? I'll get into that question with them if they start talking budget and they start saying some things that are red flags. Oh yeah, this is, I want polished marble. It's in Manhattan. It's right off the sidewalk and it's in the lobby. I want polished marble. And people do that. You can do that, but there's some downsides to using that. So, but if it's a homeowner, you have to probe a little more and really like, what's their expectation?
Yeah.
Do they want a tumbled marble that's kind of beat up looking to begin with? Okay, that's pretty good. If they want a polished marble and it's their entryway, because you want that grand entryway, it's a certain aesthetic, you can accomplish that with a nice marble. But you have to manage the expectations. And this is also off topic, scratching and wearing, but also maintenance, meaning, staining and getting dirty. So those are the things you have to just see where they're at. And it also has to do with budget. And what I mean by that is if somebody's just like real basic person and doesn't have too much money to spend.
Like real basic. You just described me. It's like, Craig, he's just a real basic person.
Right. Exactly. Craig just has like rubber tiles down, just like,
we don't even have tiles. We have dirt floors here.
Recycled truck tires, they make it the tiles, right? Just throw it down the floor. So, yeah. So and I use that example as if I'm in New York and my territory covers Hamptons, Long Island. Hamptons kind of bougie, right? Bougie. They could put polished marble in the most impractical space. I don't worry about it because they can just hire someone to come and clean it or polish it or sand it down.
But for us everyday people, what do you suggest?
Well, I think you could definitely use stone in many applications, and it just need to manage the expectations. It really has to do with the personality. Somebody gets a leather couch. Do they want it to 5 years from now have no creases whatsoever, and or are they okay with the kind of like breaking in a little? In Europe, they're really chill, right? In Europe, like, you get marble and it kind of gets beat up a little. That's fine. Here, we're hiring lawyers after 7 months. Yeah. What's your experience with, from the installation end? Do you ever get into that, or is it kind of too late?
Yeah, I think from the installation, and especially in commercial installation, we, as we read through the specifications of a project, there are some red flags, especially when you see stone and you're saying, just like you said, okay, they've got a commercial kitchen countertop that's going to be used for food prep. I'm going to be a little leery about putting a white Carrera or a statuary on there because their intention is for it to look like that forever. And just
Right.
as you've seen in Italy, they do use the Carrera for prep, but it doesn't look brand new. It's got patina to it, and so you have to manage those expectations
Right.
and think to yourself, okay, this is a food prep area. Maybe you want to go to a quartz, or maybe even something completely different, stainless steel. But if it's a display
porcelain.
area or a porcelain, or if it's a display area where you're displaying food, use marble all day long because the chances of it being damaged permanently are much lower. And you got to think about, and as professionals, we need to know what type stones are damaged by what things. And acids, John, are a big problem with some type stones.
Yeah, acids are actually a little more ominous than staining, because staining, from a scientific standpoint, can be prevented, right? Where etching, unless you're doing something very off the grid, like they have these kind of like plastic coatings. I'm really simplifying it, that you put on stone. That high-end jobs are now doing, and they're charging like $4 or $5 a square foot to put these coating on there. But it looks exact. It doesn't change. It keeps it shiny, but it won't etch.
Is it like those wraps you put on a really expensive car?
It's wrapping your countertop now. And when I first heard it, I was like, who's going to do that in a high-end home? But now it's gotten to the point where I know a lot of people making a lot of money in the industry, and they're not kind of saying it the way you said it, like we're wrapping it. It's kind of like we're applying this thing, and then they show up and they're like just coming with a clear roll of something, they're spraying it on and putting it on.
But I'm basic, so
you're basic.
But John, when we talk about acids, we're not talking about hydrochloric acid. What are acids that cause problems?
Oh, great question. So not the acid in the drugs, and not the acid like in from a chemistry class, acid in nature. And so the number one thing is you cut a lemon on your countertop. You take it and you put it face down, and all of a sudden the acidic acid from the lemon is just sitting on the countertop. It's not very strong because you can ingest it without any injury, but your countertop won't like it, because what happens is later on you may see, what would you see? You pick up the lemon,
see a dull ring. It looks
yeah.
And then you call your rep, John Tedesco, and say, your stone is defective.
Well, they don't quite say it like that. They say first, hey, John, you're an idiot. No, they call me up and say, John, I just need some help. My stone is stained.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Fine. And so they're like, well, send me a picture. And I see it's like a shiny marble and one spot's not shiny. And I'm like, they don't know yet. This is done. Like this is not something you could remedy very easily. And it's amazing how something small. Now, we talked about a lemon, but if you have a drink or cocktail that kind of like sometimes condenses into some of the drink, comes over the glass, and then it goes to the bottom and it has like a little water ring on your countertop. Normally that's fine, but there's some ingredients in that drink could go onto your counter and create the same problem. So I'm thinking lemon to answer your question. I'm thinking ketchup, right? Tomatoes. You can have
vinegar.
Vinegar for sure, right? So that should have been number one answer. You have vinegar and you spill it. Those things could etch a stone. So this is how I explain etching. Craig, did you ever go to like a store and there's a glass door, and on the front it says the store hours, right?
Right. Yep.
It's a clear glass and it has the hours. I think years ago, instead of vinyl letters, they used to like etch it on, like it would they would damage the glass with the letter H and the letter O, and it would make it become dull and
kind of honed look.
Right. So now they do vinyl letters, but you're actually deliberately damaging the glass to make it change. You're actually changing the structure of it, and now it's etched. So it's not something you can just come and clean off. So it's the same thing with a lemon. You put a lemon on a delicate marble, you let it sit. It could make the shine appear dull And actually, so what is actually happening to the surface, in your opinion?
Um, it's chemically kind of changing the surface. It's actually, polished tiles and polished stone is done by a series of sanding. So you're sanding it.
Right.
You're starting with just like a woodworking or anything like that. You're starting with those low grit sandpapers, and you're working all the way up until a really high grit. And when that acid is introduced to it, it breaks down that polishing process, which is one of the things I was going to ask you. How do you fix it?
Oh, so it's fixable because that marble you probably didn't come out of the mountain polished like you just described. It's a mechanical process. Basically, a really layman's way of explaining polishing is just taking a stone and mechanically making it so smooth that it starts to be shiny, right? So that acid undoes that, so you kind of bring it back to its original state. Now, sometimes people like honed marble countertops from the beginning, so maybe that's a better choice. Not that I guess marble would still etch that, but it wouldn't be as noticeable.
I think that's the whole thing. Just like, when you look across a glass, you see it's shiny, and if there's a defect in it, you can see it pretty well.
Yeah.
So when you hone that, it's less likely,
less
to
obvious.
Have that. Yep. Now,
it's true.
Etching is kind of staining, but to protect your stone, let's kind of move into the second section. As a professional, when you're talking to someone, what's the thing you always sell with the stone product?
Well, so this conversation tonight is about two things. I think it's kind of like etching when you're talking about marble or natural stone, etching and staining. You and I don't look at etching as staining, but we're kind of oversimplifying what we're saying. Right. But once you get past the conversation with the end user, we need to know, is it etched or is it stained? Yeah. So to prevent etching, there's really nothing you can do to prevent it unless you're putting that, wrap on there. And that's a different conversation. But there's no real liquid or anything you could put on top.
No sealer that'll protect you from etching.
Right. And one of the reasons it doesn't work is because the good sealers are impregnating sealers, which are not topical. So you put a sealer on a stone, it's going below the surface, and it's filling the pores that were open, small pores, right, Craig? Yeah. But if you have a little oil sitting on the surface and there's a pore, it will get into that marble. Yeah. If you have the sealer in there, there's no place for the sealer to go sit on the surface. You wipe it off. So because sealers are impregnating, there's no qualities of protecting the surface. So, so this is one of your favorite brands, isn't it?
Well, yeah. So, when thinking about protecting your investment, we understand that the acid etching is a whole different thing.
Right.
You need to, when you want to protect against that, use a cutting board, cut it on something other than your stone. And I would suggest just getting into that habit, even though celery, for example, is not going to do anything to your countertop. If you're cutting celery and then next you go into a tomato, so use a cutting. That's how you protect it against the etching. Stains, on the other hand, are protected. You can use a sealer. And I pulled up this slide because this is just one of my training slides to show you or talk about the sealers. I love Stone Tech, which is a Laticrete-owned company. Their bulletproof sealer is a great water-based sealer.
Right.
But I love the picture that I took on the right-hand side of the screen that shows that bubble of water on top of a sealed piece of stone and a non-sealed piece of stone. John, what does that say to you?
So, the one that says sealed means that the water has no place to go into the stone, and the one below it, it actually has a place. Now, if that was a drop of water,
it is a drop of water.
So, so that's telling the bottom one, it's the stone is getting darker, right? You go to the beach and you see a kind of a dull dark rock that's been weathered, and you hit water on it, and all of a sudden it gets bright, right? So here you have water getting into the stone, making it darker temporarily. So if that water drop that you have in that picture didn't have any impurities in it, didn't have any dirt or oil or anything like that, that's not a problem. That's not a problem at all. It is a problem if that drop happened to be oil or happened to be something with dirt in it, and it would go into the stone just like a drop of water would, but it wouldn't evaporate because it's junk. It's crud.
Yeah.
So now sometimes it's both, right? The water is mixed with something.
Sure. Yeah. And it pulls that impurity. You think of, and this is an installation that I do not like, but I've been told I need to. But think of using stone as your shower floor, which, in my opinion, just my opinion, I don't suggest it, because number one, you've got tons of chemicals in a shower, and then you've got your whole floor being penetrated by this water. And the nature of a shower, which I learned at 2 or 3, you're supposed to get yourself clean. So it is impure, and it's hitting your stone. And just like John, just like you said, is that water is being absorbed into the stone, and it's leaving behind all those impurities that are there.
Right. And some people may think about your suggestion to not use stone on a shower floor, or you're not a fan of it. They may incorrectly think that you're saying that because you're worried about it leaking to the floor below. But if anyone knows anything about Craig, he knows about systems, waterproofing systems.
Yeah.
Even if if the grout was done crappy and the water gets in there, you still shouldn't have a leak. Yeah. So I think what you're referring to and what you alluded to is that you have impurities, you have shampoos, you have soaps, and you have dirt on your body, and you have oils on your body.
I've got 14 different color bottles in my shower right now. Yeah. I have no idea what any of them are.
And I'm sure they're not all clear, right? There's different colors, right?
Exactly.
Greens. And so sometimes the dyes in cleaning product or makeup could. So yeah, I would concur that stone is not, it's not perfect for a shower floor.
And I know where you're going with this. Is it's not that the system will fail. It will perform exactly as intended, nature intended, but it's the maintenance and the investment that you have up front, and then the future investment of the maintenance, and then making sure it meets expectations. That's why I'm not a fan.
Right, but or just manage expectations. Like, many people aren't going to do anything about it, but they're going to be unhappy. They're going to be looking at the floor.
Exactly.
I did this floor last year, and it looks blotchy, or it looks weird. So that, I think, is the most important part, because the staining of a floor doesn't impact, like, the floor still works. You can still stand on it. Water's not leaking into your kitchen below. Exactly. So it's really more an aesthetic question. So that's, I think, the number one, because it's really not it's not really malpractice to put stone on the shower floor.
All right. So John, we're running out of time. But before we run out of time, I want to ask you some questions.
All right.
I've got stone. And
I didn't prepare for this. I'm sorry.
Well, it's okay. You're a professional. I've got stone, and I've sealed the stone, or I've not sealed the stone. We don't know. Okay. But it is stained. What do I do now?
Sell your house. Absolutely.
No, that's wrong. That's the wrong answer. I'm going to turn you in. You're supposed to say tear it out and buy more stone from me.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's number 2. Well, I knew people weren't going to do that, so I knew they were just going to rip it out and buy more tile. That's the question number. So the answer number 3: if you're not going to sell your house, you're not going to rip it up and buy more tile from John. The third thing you do is try to remedy the situation, and in a way of not ripping it out. And there is something that is pretty cool, and I've actually seen this work. And what is it called?
The most successful is a poultice. That kind of will encompass it. But I do, and hey, if you're out there and you're loving this content and you want a copy of anything, please let me know. I'll be glad to send you this training document. But I wrote down here some of the most common stains and some of the kind of do-it-your-home remedies to fix it. And we're not going to go through them all, but there are some ways to get your stone maybe back to almost the way it was. And one of the most common is a poultice. And what a poultice is simply, if you don't buy it, I mean, that you can buy it in the store. If you go to Home Depot, it'll say tile and stone poultice, and it'll have instructions on it. But you can make it from home. And give a shout out to Don Rogers, who is our VP of stone at Tile Bar. He and I talked about this for a lot, and he gave me this homemade, make your own poultice at home.
Yeah.
I guess you could bag it and sell it, put it on Amazon. Who knows? But all it is baking soda with a little bit of hydrogen peroxide. And just as you saw that water molecule absorb into the stone, the baking soda and the hydrogen peroxide, when it's made into a paste, you put it on top of your stain and it'll draw that stain out.
Yeah. My understanding or my visual of it's got kind of a wetting. The water is the wetting agent. It goes into the stone, and then the powder kind of, it soaks it back in, brings it back up to the surface. And so sometimes people recommend so picture something kind of like toothpaste, a little drier, but like toothpaste, right? Put it on the stain. So if you have a stain that's 2 inches wide, you put it wider than the stain.
A little bit wider,
double it maybe. And then what's Craig's suggestion about putting saran wrap over it?
Yeah, you want to keep it wet for as long as possible. So because you want that water to penetrate into your stone and to have it. So what I normally do is just cut off a piece of a Ziploc bag, tape it down on the edges so that it doesn't dry out from the top down. It dries out from the bottom up. And that actual work of the moisture going through the stone will try to pick up those contaminants and pull it into the paste. And that's what you're looking to do.
It does require patience and diligence and here's why. Because as you saw before, a drop of clean water makes a stone look darker, can, right? So when you're taking this poultice, homemade or store-bought poultice, which I think we sell too. Don't we sell poultice? I don't know if we do.
No, we don't have that in our catalog. We don't.
So what happens is you put this poultice on the stain, particularly if it's an oil-based stain, it probably will work, right? Or it should work. But what will happen is after you wipe off the poultice after, say, 24 hours, it probably will look worse. Because now you've just forced this moisture into the stone. Right. But most of that is water. That's going to evaporate. After it evaporates, you look at the stain, maybe take a picture. And if you see the stain improve just a little, perfect. Because it means it's working a little, right? If it does nothing, if it doesn't move the needle, you probably, it probably won't move it much. You still try it again. So then what happens, you look at it and you say, I think it helped a little. Then what do you do, Craig?
Do it again.
You do it again. And I don't know if anyone's done any tests on this, but I kind of think 2, 3, 4 times it's likely that you would just slowly extract the stain out.
Yeah. And you're either going to get bored with it and just accept it, or it's going to help.
Exactly. So I think it's worth trying. That's good advice. Store-bought, make it at home. And just like your clothing, if you stain it with, in the store, they sell those little bottles of, if you have a grease stain, use this to clean your clothes. If you have a paint stain, use this. So some of those things on that list previously you had, Craig, some of those there really aren't solutions for. But I think if it's oil-based or dirt, you have a good chance of getting it out. What do you think?
Absolutely. So we're at the end of our time, John. What is one takeaway you want everybody to remember from this conversation?
Impervious, the word of the day. That means something can soak in, that something's absorbent. Takeaway is speak to a professional. If you are buying a car, speak to a professional If you're buying, lighting, speak to a professional about the innuendos of the lighting and the kelvins. And if you're buying stone, speak to a professional. Talk about budget, talk about expectations, talk about maintenance, talking about what can go wrong, what can go right, and make an educated decision what's best for you and your family and your home or your business.
Absolutely. I'm going to say, if you're purchasing stone or you have stone, sealer and sealer maintenance is key to try to keep it looking as good as possible. And then follow up with John or one of us if you have questions. We'll be glad to help you, even if it's a specific, I sat down and drink, here's what I haven't. We'll look at it. We'll be glad to try to guide you through. We can be those professionals for you if you don't trust anybody in your hometown. But Absolutely. A great conversation. Stone is natural. It's unique. It's beautiful. And to my knowledge, it's never been out of style. So don't be afraid of it. Just do your homework.
Exactly. Absolutely. So, hey, this is John Tedisco. We're doing this every week on the Tile Happy Hour with my cohort here, Craig Cahoon. We love to talk about tile, stone, glass, LVT, current events, all sorts of things. But if you want to talk about something specific, let us know. Shoot us a message on our social media, make a comment, send us a letter, whatever you want. If you have a very specific technical question, we're here for you. We do that. Actually, some segments will bring up some, viewer questions, viewer mail, fan mail, all that stuff. So yeah, this is John Tedisco, and I'd like to wish you peace, health, and happiness.
And this is Craig. I enjoyed the conversation, John. Thanks for being a part of this every week. Love to hear from you on Instagram, X, whatever. Love reading your comments. Reach out to us. Remember, all the tile and stone needs you want are at tilebar.com. And let's always keep learning together and tile the world.